What does it mean to be a little bit better each and every single day? Consider being 37 times more efficient or skilled as a result of a 1% per day commitment. Then imagine being 37 times better at whatever it is you're looking to improve on. It almost sounds too good to be true. Here's the catch though, 1% doesn't seem like much, which is good. If you want to be 37 times better in a year, you might think you need to improve by much more than 1% per day. James Clears made this observation. That's an almost unfathomable well, it seems that the simpler and more inconsequential something is to complete, the simpler and more convenient it is to ignore it. We've all been there, and maybe not today, maybe tomorrow, but it's not a big deal, and we don't lose anything, so what's the big deal? That's something we need to learn how to wrestle with. Put your phone away to work on something of substance. Yeah, that's pretty easy, but watching just one more TikTok or Instagram or YouTube video is easy too. Putting on your shoes, going for a walk or run, heading to the gym, hey, it's not that difficult procedurally. Saying yes to the little things you know you need to do is easy, and so is saying no to putting your phone away to work on something of substance. Yeah, that's pretty easy, but watching just one more TikTok or Instagram or YouTube video is not that complicated. But talking yourself into just going tomorrow instead of today is also a rationalization that's pretty easy, and that's essentially the question, which easy are you going to go with? How do you put yourself in a position to select the right option? Well, like so many other things, it starts with the worldview and flows out to the tangible actions we take in support of that worldview. First things first, we have to be aware that the greatest advantage available is seeing the big picture. In other words, it looks like deciding on what matters and then making a pact with yourself every day to keep your own promises when most people would fall off or push things to tomorrow. It's seeing your commitment as everything, knowing that the people who manufacture significance in their lives are the ones who treat what others would call silly and trivial as life and death. They incorporate the details into the overall plot, so it's easy for someone else to walk away because they don't see the significance of what they're doing. Yes to the water, but no to the drink. No to the alarm, but yes to the run. No to Netflix, but yes to the gym. Both choices were simple in the situations in which they arose, but only one of them mattered at any given time. This is what it means to tie prolonged gratification to something that is extremely important to you, so that each step is not just a step, but one step closer to the moon. So while it's not true that a can of Coke, dessert, or a day off will kill you, it is important to remember that the narrative you tell yourself can have a significant impact on your life. It's not a matter of what will I lose by skipping this 1%? But rather what will I get by being loyal to my objective and the promises I make to myself? This is because when you do stay true to both, you get something so much more in return. In a world where mediocrity multiplies, the answer is no. This choice is an investment that is too excellent to pass up, and moving forward to embrace things that are in alignment with your true north is a gesture to the person that you will become in the future. If you don't give yourself permission to be vulnerable, you will never achieve greatness. If you don't risk failing, you have no chance of being the one who makes a statement. You don't risk people laughing at you, you have no chance of them applauding you, and if you don't risk trading today for a future outcome that is unclear, you'll never know the good fortune that that future holds for you. Yeah, being vulnerable is challenging, and painful, but it is necessary. It is the ocean that separates what you have from what you want, and it is the mountain that stands between who you are and who you want to be. Being vulnerable is the ocean that separates what you have from what you want. It implies that you stop looking at what could possibly go wrong and start thinking about what could possibly go right, because every question has two sides to it, right? Should you release that song, even though it might not be successful but could serve as the beginning of your dream? Do you make that first trip to the gym, even though you'll probably look like you have no idea what you're doing, even though it could lead to you feeling better about yourself than you ever have in the past? Do you apply for that promotion, even though you might be let down, but it might also lead to a career transformation? Both of these decisions have the potential to lead to positive outcomes. They jolt our deeply ingrained desire to fit in right at the core, and they clash like fire and water. So much of our stress comes from a need to belong, to preserve a reputation, to be cool. If you want a fun experiment, Watch how fast being cool turns into mediocrity. It's doing the things that are not cool over and over again. Do you see the dynamic here? Every major decision comes with a risk, and that's why people avoid making them. By standing out, by taking the road less traveled, they shake our deeply rooted desire to fit in right. The ones who are different and bold out there are the ones who change things. They are the ones who are okay with being called irrational, okay with being laughed at, and okay with failing and not getting it the first time around. If you do not let yourself be vulnerable, you will never experience failure on a significant level. If you don't fail, you don't learn. If you don't learn, you don't grow. In that case, you can forget about the top of the mountain's safety and comfort. Keep in mind that as we progress through each stage of our lives, our worries diminish in significance. When we look back, we realize that our previous priorities were misaligned. We worried about things that didn't matter and allowed our decisions to be guided by variables that were irrelevant. This is the beauty of risk. It increases as we take on greater and greater challenges. This insight helps us move farther and further beyond the little matters that hold less and less significance with each passing step. Eventually, your errors won't even matter. The opinions of complete strangers will be irrelevant. What will matter is whether you took control of your life and did something meaningful with it, whether you followed your heart and your instinct. And I know it's hard, I know it's uncomfortable, I can't sit here and guarantee the path will be paved out in gold and everything will go how you want. However, I can promise this: you will learn, you will adapt, and you will move forward. Therefore, have faith in yourself and the procedure. I can promise that the critics and the naysayers will get smaller and smaller until they have faith that you are extraordinary, and go create some magic of your own. There's something truly amazing about the possibility of beginning again. This isn't because you're dissatisfied with who you are or because each step that brought you here wasn't perfect in its own special way. Rather, it's because somewhere deep down we can feel the infinite, and we know that when it comes to what's possible, we are a glimmer of light in a galaxy of stars waiting to take shape and find our way to shine out across the very elements from which we came. It's the places you've never been and the people you've never met. It's the stories you haven't told and the dreams that are still dancing around in your head. There's an old quote by Dr. Seuss that I remember from when I was a kid. He said that sometimes you will never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. Turning the page on that chapter is, if nothing else, a temporary reminder that we are in the very moment that we put the spotlight on the people and things that are most important to us. And reassures us that the small stuff just might be the big stuff after all. Life doesn't dwell on the heartbreak or the times we fell, but the times we got back up. The times we looked with confidence at the road ahead and smiled at the horizon as each fleeting moment is discovered for the very first time. So here's to breathing in that ocean breeze, laughing until your stomach hurts. Here's to dreaming like there are no rules and living like there are no limits. Here's to living one word, one note, one brush stroke at a time, to dancing when the music isn't playing and sharing your song when it is. Here's to seeing the beauty when most walk right by it, being light in darkness and a voice in silence. Here's to living life on your terms, paving your own path and writing your own story. The one where the hero doesn't stop until the princess is saved and the castle is taken. The one where reality is a reflection of imagination, because if you can imagine it, you can create. If what F. Scott Fitzgerald says is correct, and our lives are defined by the opportunities we have and the ones we don't take, then how much of our lives is left up in the air? And I don't think it's about playing a game of what if, because that would be an endless game, and it would be counterproductive because no one is perfect. I don't even really think that it matters whether you take a right turn instead of a left turn, because as long as you're moving and as long as you're moving with conviction, life will eventually deliver you to the place where you need to be. But more importantly, I'm concerned about the steps that were never taken, the ideas that were never hatched, and the opportunities that I either knowingly or unknowingly left on the shelf because it didn't seem real enough, like a Broadway play between my ears that as a spectator I knew would end. After all, that's what stories do. Maybe they are people who struggle and question themselves and doubt the road ahead. It must be the past. They took happiness and I took those things we don't say out loud. Then there's everyday life when things don't go as planned, when the world presents curveballs and you haven't learned to hit off speed. You feel small and you feel inadequate and ill-equipped and you could reach out, but that's not cool. That's not right. Maybe they are people who struggle and question themselves and doubt that is something that you don't say out loud, but we keep it in, like all in, and gradually it becomes the if only, and I wish I had spoken it out loud instead. It is the quiet envy that longs for those who couldn't care less, who realized maybe life isn't as serious as we make it out to be, who turn thoughts to things not by burying but by embodying them, and perhaps that's the trick to unlocking the gate that keeps your perceived reality from the possibility of a new one. The one you could create if you only promoted your fleeting thoughts to forward progress. See? You must believe that you are worthy of it in two places in your life. In your you must believe that you are worthy of it, not in the back of your head where you keep your locker combo in movie quotes, but in reality where words bounce off lips, and when you feel like life is treating you unfairly, like they're happier or have it better than you do, and when you look around and you wonder why you don't have it. Know that you can, you're allowed to. If you sacrifice you will, but remember the little things, the ones that we all learn to appreciate, perhaps a little bit too late. That feeling of comfort that our young eyes first understood to be home, the little conversations that we still think about because they were the ones that molded us, the little stretches of time that we thought would last forever but, to our surprise, had a concluding moment written into the story. Oh, those little things. I went to a concert when I was in high school. It was at the Orpheum in Boston, Massachusetts. I went with two of my friends, and we had a great time. Years have obviously passed, and I recently asked myself what I remember about that day and why it is such a powerful moment for me. Interestingly enough, I don't remember any of the songs that were sung or how well they were played. I don't remember what I bought or what the outward manifestations or looks were the incorrect things to do. It seemed intuitive and overwhelming obvious, but now they're just reminders of how easily we can walk on what matters to get our hands on what doesn't. We know what's important. We know what we hold dear. Do we think enough about those little things every time the caller ID says mom or dad or nana banana? When my little brother and sister get new apartments, jobs, and promotions, I start navigating this crazy world every time I open my laptop and get to bleed my thoughts out every time I open my laptop. Therefore, make the most of them while you're in them and don't let go. The realization that a desire, vision, or concept you have at any point in your life can become a reality is the first step toward achieving everything you set your mind to. This is the point at which everything starts. It is only self-belief, a confidence in something greater outside those walls, that opens the gate that expands your reality. If you think of reality as these city walls you're living in, it's not crazy to think that there are going to be people that only know that existence within the walls, right? That's what they see. That's what most people believe. That's how they live. It is the gatekeeper that stands between the present and the future. See, if you think of reality as you already know that you have to keep going, so barriers shouldn't make you question whether or not you should keep going. I mean, come on, you haven't arrived yet, there's still a road to travel. No, hurdles shouldn't make you question whether or not you should keep going in this case. You'll find that very few people get to the how question. They all stop at if I wonder if I can do this, I wonder if I'm capable, and they'll never know, they'll never see that sunset beyond those metaphorical city walls because they never truly believed in the possibility that they could. Obstacles simply prompt you to ask how and how can I get through this? And that's the small difference that changes everything, because at some point you'll look to your right and it's not difficult at all. It's simple. It's simple. The majority of people give up when things get difficult. But if you have the guts to believe in yourself and trust yourself, you'll succeed. Why? Because you won't give up until you find a way, and that's the power of self-belief. It's simple. It's simple. The majority of people give up when things get difficult. It's not quantum physics. You should know that it's not hard to do. I didn't know about a free, flexible lifestyle. And I wasn't aware of the types of relationships that would change my life because they existed outside those city walls. At one point, I didn't think I could make a living outside of a cubicle or office building. Then I saw other people do it, and for the first time in my life, I believed it was possible. I changed my actions to support my beliefs, and here we are. At one point, I didn't think certain financial goals were reality. From now on, the question is how your destiny will unfold. It's not a coin flip, it's a puzzle, it's about arranging the pieces, and those two eyes staring back at you are more than capable of figuring that out. Simply ask yourself whether or not you want it, and if the answer is yes, open that front door, take that first step, and inject yourself into a journey that will be unlike anything you've ever experienced before. There's a story about some frogs, and as they're moving through the woods, the ground gives way from under them, and two of them tumble down into a small pit. When they reach the bottom, they look up and realize how far they've fallen, and they start moving around and panicking. Essentially coming to terms with the situation that they are now in, they start frantically jumping and trying to climb out of the pit. The story ends with the frogs finally making it out. It wasn't because it enabled him to accomplish the extraordinary or the impossible, rather, it was because it muffled the voices of those on the outside who were trying to tell him what was feasible. Look, there will always be naysayers, skeptics, and cynics. Aristotle once said that there is only one way to avoid criticism: do nothing, say nothing, and be nothing. However, the beauty of the situation is that these voices have one thing in common, and that is their irrelevance. There is only one voice that matters in the writing of your story, and that voice belongs to you. Never forget how much control you have, and never forget who holds the pen, not instructions or expectations, but rather the spark that leads you to do what is appropriate and, consequently, what is most important. I wish you an unending faith in yourself that will get you out of any hole, help you climb any mountain, and most importantly, help you turn blank pages into a story that is truly yours. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Wish you all the best in life. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. See you in next audiobook.